All right, welcome back to Trimble Garage. So today we're going to be carrying on with the rebuilding of the Suzuki Carry engine. We're getting close to the end and I'm just waiting for an exhaust manifold gasket to show up. But in the meantime, I do have some other things I can carry on with, so let's just get right to it. All right, so my intake manifold is still going to be 2-3 days away. So instead of waiting for that, I'm going to carry on with the serpentine tension belt tensioner, or the fan belt tensioner. My bearing here, the original one, it's all growly feeling. You can't obviously tell on camera, but trust me, it's no good. It was underwater. So I got a new one off Amazon. I think it was $15 Canadian. I pressed the old one apart, and now what I'm going to do is go ahead and press this back together. Also, I did manage to get the one bolt that was holding this heat shield on my exhaust manifold. So I've gone ahead and just chased all the threads here, so they're all cleaned up. And I do have some new bolts to put in. I've got to get a few more. I've only got 5. There's a total of 8 bolts. So I'll get a few more of those. But anyway, for right now, let's put this thing back together. All right, so I've got my outer ring sitting on here. I'm going to put my bearing in there, and I've got this little tool that just happens to be about the perfect size. And we'll go ahead and just press this in. Well, it's going in a bit crooked. There we go, that's straight. I'll press it in just a little bit more. Okay, that's got the bearing. I've got it pretty much centered in there. And now I'll get my next part. All right, so the way I got this set up, you want to support the inner race when you're pressing something in the inner race. You don't want to hold the outside, because then you're putting all the force through the bearing. So I've got this sitting on here supporting the inner race. This is the part that I'm pressing in, and then I've just got a socket that'll fit in there nicely. Try and get that level. And this should just press nice and easy. Yep, there it goes. And there you have it. The tensioner is all put together. Spins nice and freely, ready to install. All right, so in my hands is an intake manifold gasket. This is what I've been waiting for. It's finally arrived. So I'm gonna get this intake manifold off here. I'm actually gonna bring this and put it down onto the shop floor here, because once I start putting all this stuff on, it's just gonna be a little too heavy for me to lift off. So I'm gonna put this down on the shop floor, finish the assembly on this thing, and then we're gonna be bolting the transmission onto it. All right, let's get this intake manifold on. We'll pull this tape off the ports here. So I've already got that all cleaned up. Let's get our gasket on there. Oh, before we go any further, don't forget to get your knock sensor on here. Once you get that intake manifold on, you won't be able to do that. So now's the time to bolt that sucker on. All right, these are all torqued to 97 inch-pounds. Pretty common torque setting for this engine. I'm just gonna work my way from the inside and just go around, slowly work to the outside of the intake manifold. Next thing will be the fuel injectors. Now, if you've got new seals for the bottom of the injector, now's the time to put them on. I don't have new ones, so if these leak, I'll just replace it later on. They're easy to get to on the engine. And I put some O-ring assembly lube on to help them slide into the holes in the intake. There we go. There's actually 2 different size bolts. The 2 longer ones go on on this part of the bracket, and the short bolt just goes on this little little holder for the hose. And I'm going to torque these down to 97 inch-pounds as well, because that is the same exact bolt that we did for the intake manifold bolts. There we go. Next thing I'm going to do is hook up this bracket for the fuel line. We'll slide our hose on here like that. Hook up our 2 bolts. Connect my coolant hose. This coolant line needs to go on, and this attaches around the front of the timing cover and connects to the throttle body. All right, so at this point of the build, next thing I want to do is get my alternator on, alternator bracket. So there's 3 bolts that hold this on here. You slide our alternator in. This bracket goes on here. Actually, no, not that one, this one. There we go. And we'll put our newly repaired tensioner on here. So the tensioner goes, there's one way it can go, and I can see the witness marks from where the bolts were. So the sort of one side's got a lip on it, one side does not. The side on the lip comes out. All right, so just slip the belt on. To get this tensioned, I've just grabbed a piece of the alternator, and I'm not gonna push this very hard. Last thing I'm gonna do is start snapping that alternator. I'm just gonna put a little bit of tension on there with a screwdriver and get that to tighten up. There, that should do it. I'll just go the rest of the way here. That looks pretty good. There you go. We got our belt on. I think the next thing to do is actually go ahead and put the transmission on. Actually, we can put the dipstick in. There we go. All right, I got some degreaser on the transmission. There's a couple other parts I'm going to clean up here. So let's get the pressure washer going and clean some stuff up. All right, the truck is finally back in the shop. It's been out of the shop for a long time. It can, dry out a bit. Transmission's cleaned up. There's lots of mud and stuff caked on it. The one thing I'm gonna have to do now is replace this throwout bearing. It is completely seized. As you know, I do have a new one. And I'm gonna clean up these splines to make sure that the clutch will go smoothly over that. But yeah, it was really dirty inside there. It's much better. So let's get a new thrust bearing on. All right, to get this thrust bearing out, there's a little clip here. So all I did is put a screwdriver in the side of that, and it looks like that's going to release this off of here. There we go. And then this whole thing will come off. All right, with that off, I got my new bearing. I just want to make sure, yeah, that slides nice. So I'm gonna put a little bit of grease around here, just not a lot, but just enough so that it's, gonna move nicely. There, that should be good. All right, here's the old bearing. It had lots of really nasty grease and everything on it. So what we're gonna do, I've got a little bit of clean grease. I'm gonna put that just on these pivot points here. Also in this socket here. So when it goes on that little pintle, if you will, in the transmission, that'll be lubricated. Then all you do is hook this little clip. No, not like that. That's upside down. Hook this little clip in. Little springs on it, and then all you do is you take your throw-up bearing's got 2 flats. Slide the flats under this spring. There. Slide it on there. Let's go put it in. Oh, I think you pull the clip forward. Yeah, that's what I gotta do. I gotta get some pliers. So this little clip looks like you need to just grab onto it and pull it forward. There we go. And that's it. Make sure it works right. Let's bolt it onto the engine. All right, in theory, this should just slip on. It's not too heavy. We'll see if I can get this on without breaking my back. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, let's try a different way. All right, I got the motor just tipped up a little bit this way, which should help. Okay. All right, do it a different way. All right, I've done it this way before. Last time I did one of these, this is how I did it. But it wasn't a 4-wheel drive. It's a little heavier with the transfer case. Anyway, we'll just pick this up and drop it on. He's all lined up, it just doesn't want to go. It could be those splines aren't quite lined up right. Just gotta jiggle it on here. Okay, so what I've done, I removed the pressure plate, took the clutch disc out, made sure it actually fits on the transmission, which it does, so that's good. And now what I've done is I use my little alignment tool, I line that up, and I don't have these tight, they're loose. So I'm gonna put the transmission on. This will actually move around and center itself and let the transmission goes on. Let the transmission on, and then once the transmission's on, I can access these bolts through the starter hole. So I'll turn the engine over, tighten up a bolt, and just work my way around. It's not ideal, but that's what I'm gonna try doing. So let's see if she'll work. There we go. It's on. And now with that on, let me just rotate this around and make sure, yeah, I can get at those bolts. So that's what I'll do. Tighten up the transmission, tighten up those bolts, and we'll be good to go. All right, once you get that transmission bolted on, there's this little plate here that slides just under the, right in there. So there's 2 little 10mm bolts that'll hold that on. Transmission's bolted on. I thought my camera was going, but I screwed up. Didn't get the exhaust manifold going on. That's pretty basic. Heat shields are on. Threw the oil filter on. So now I'm going to tip the motor down, rotate the motor around, and tighten up these pressure plate bolts. And then I think the next thing will be the wiring harness. All right, so I've thrown the motor mounts on, and the next thing I'm going to do is wire harness. Went in just perfectly. I also decided to throw the starter in. It's a little easier to do it right now than when you're up underneath the truck trying to put it in, so I put that in. So this engine is 100% ready to install in the truck. So that's what I'm going to do in the next video. end this one here because right now it's a good stopping point. It's ready to go into the truck. The next video, we'll get this thing in and we'll get it running. So yeah, thoughts and comments down below. Let me know what you think. And if you haven't subscribed already, hey, I'd love it if you did. And you'll know when the next video comes out. I hope you're enjoying this series and learning something. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching and have yourself a great day.